Nilay, it's good to have you. Do you think it's a coincidence the way the shares are trading today with the CEOs on Capitol Hill?
I don't think it's a coincidence. Obviously, these companies are all under a lot of scrutiny ahead of the election, the additional scrutiny from Congress today. Certainly, I think you can see where it's going. Something is going to happen with 230 in the next administration. There is bipartisan consensus that the tech companies need to be regulated in some way. Democrats want them to moderate more. Republicans want them to moderate less. I can't tell you how that's going to go. What I do know is that today's hearing is pretty embarrassingly bad. You just start from almost all of the senators mispronouncing Sundar Pichai's name. They just don't seem prepared to go up against these CEOs. They don't seem prepared on the nuance. All of the CEOs have been able to make their content moderation policies sound thoughtful and rigorous and above the fray. Would we know that's not the case? And we've seen from a number of Republican senators, most notably Ted Cruz, a desire to play for sound bites instead of the very difficult nuance and very difficult policy of how we want massive social platforms to actually regulate speech. And so I just think today's hearing won't have the impact that it sounds like it should, but the impact of something happening at 2:30 is very real.
I mean, Nilay, it seems to me the more that I look into it that it's going to protect the way that the law currently treats these companies and the way that these companies currently function. If you go back to the executive order in late May that the president signed that signaled, there was going to be retribution for more or less moderating political speech, you look into the details of it, and it basically, the Justice Department, different agencies are kind of codifying the way that the law currently treats these companies, and the shares for all three of them are up significantly since then. So there's no sign that investors think there's real trouble coming. And that's why I'm surprised to see the shares down more than 5% today. And frankly, I don't know if it's related to this hearing. I don't know if anything's going to change in a meaningful way other than to make sure that social media as we know it continues to be social media as we know it.
I think the big question about social media as we know it is whether it's a good thing for social media to exist as we know it. Simply to operate a platform on the scale of Facebook or YouTube requires those companies to employ armies of moderators looking at horrible content all day that everyone agrees should come down. That work gives those people PTSD. So just the base cost of having Facebook, YouTube, Twitter in the world means that people have to look at horrible content, take it down, and suffer the emotional consequences of it. We should really ask ourselves, how much of that work do we want people to do? Do we want all these platforms to be so big that it is an inevitable result of their size? And then we should ask ourselves, how much speech regulation do we want the government to make? How much do you want the government of the United States to walk over the First Amendment and tell Facebook how to moderate? That's a real thorny issue. I think the reason that we see Congress focus on 230 so much is because there's no First Amendment issue with changing 230 and liability for defamation on the platforms. There is a massive issue in telling them how to actually moderate. So they use 230 as a way to get around the core First Amendment problems they have in telling Jack Dorsey actually what to do.
Yeah, no, I reiterate, I think it seems unlikely that they're even going to go that route.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.